This Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh Elul, ushers in an intense period of time in which we engage in introspection, leading up to the Yamim Noraim and Yom Kippur. It's the beginning of the time of year when we look inward and assess, review our priorities, and perhaps commit to make changes. What should we be thinking about as we enter this time of reflection, dedication, and reinvigoration? And more importantly, how can we get ourselves into the mindset of reflection? The Gemara in Brachot discusses one type of scenario in which a person might enter the process of tshuva. And it's a scenario that begins with sadness. As we have just left the month of Av, we can appreciate the scenario that the Gemara is discussing. The Gemara says, Im ro'eh adam sheyisurin ba'in alav, yefashfesh b'ma'asav. If a person sees that terrible things are happening to him, he should investigate his deeds to determine perhaps which sin he may have committed. The Gemara continues and makes other suggestions. If that doesn't work and a person does not find any failing in their actions, he should look towards Torah study. Perhaps he could be applying himself more. The worldview of this Gemara is suggesting that when people experience terrible tragedies and their busyness, the regular routine of their day comes to a halt, very often we find ourselves asking big questions, rethinking assumptions. Coming to this place of introspection can be intense. It can also be laced with fear and anxiety, and maybe even some anger. Yefashfesh b'ma'asav. Take stock of your behavior, action, but channel that action into reinvigorating one's relationship with God. Another model of entering this process of tshuva is not a model of coming to tshuva from sadness or fear, but coming to tshuva from love. As Rabbi Abram Joshua Heschel suggests, sometimes we come to God out of wonder, and we begin to realign ourselves and reconnect ourselves with God from a place of joy and wonder. Tshuva can be a process which reminds us of our core values that may have become muted or jaded with time or from lack of paying attention to them. Tshuva can be a process of teaching ourselves to live more fully, to be ever more conscious of who we are and how we impact on other people. What should we be thinking about once we get into the headset of tshuva, either from sadness or from love? Again, there are really two models or two axes by which we can invigorate this process of tshuva. One is the vertical axis, the axis of our relationship with God, and the Gemara had provided some examples of how one could do that, through tefillah, through Talmud Torah, avenues which really help us re-inhabit again what it means to be in relationship with God, to be an Eved Hashem. And the other axis is the horizontal axis, the ways in which we encounter with other people. Tshuva can be a process of reconnecting, of taking more notice of how we interact with others, of reaching out to people in need, of looking towards people with compassion and care and love, and activating all those messages that we talked about this year in terms of tzedek. Ultimately, the process of tshuva should bring us to a place where the vertical and the horizontal begin to speak to each other and enrich each other. And when we read from our Sidur and Yom Kippur, U'tshuva, U'tfila, U'tzedaka, Ma'avirin et roa ha'gzeira, what we hopefully will come to appreciate is that the tshuva process encapsulates and accommodates both tefillah and tzedakah, both our vertical reaching out to God and our horizontal reaching out to each other will ultimately help us, each of us, become more conscious of who we are and what our potential could be in the world. I bless us all with a wonderful beginning to the tshuva process this coming Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.